emergency destruct system is now activated. The ship will detonate in T-minus 10 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 5.
Oh my god!
Train to the plastic underground. Approaching station. Please stand away from Platinum Head. Alright, you guys, so this is kind of a complicated build. It's got a lot of complicated shapes. I used a Pepakura file that I found and kind of cut out all of the parts that I was going to need. Kind of knowing like what thickness and shape everything was going to be eventually. So, a lot of stuff here I'm just kind of gluing together to get my the thickness that I need down, and then I cut it out after I glue them together. So we're kind of starting here with the back of the gun. Yeah, so I'll put a link to the Pepakura file I used. Funny enough, Evil Ted put out like 2 weeks after I finished this build. He put out his own like template and version of this in video. So I would say just go to his channel and get his template and see how he builds his, because it's pretty great. Mine is basically just kind of like a quick version, and the template I used was pretty complex, and you'd be much better off using his template. His template was made for foam. Mine was made for paper, but I kind of customized it for foam, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah, so this is the top part of the gun. I'm using some 5mm craft foam, and I'm just going through and cutting out the shape and yeah, the inside part and everything. I cut out the template and mark the inside part, and then I can trim that out with just an X-Acto knife. And you need 2 of those for the right and left side. And then for the middle part, I decided just to put some 5mm foam on the inside here, just to kind of make a shelf, like a little wall type thing. And this worked pretty good to kind of fill out the shape and make it a little bit more sturdy too. Yeah, then I can just go ahead and glue that on the other side as well. Just trying to match everything up. So yeah, that's the bottom part, and you kind of got to do that all the way around. So this is a little piece for the back, and then I can go ahead and do this top part for the rails. It's a little thinner too. The foam up here is a little thinner. That's the other thing that made this kind of complicated, was that the bottom of this rail part here is supposed to be wider, and the top is supposed to be a little thinner, supposed to kind of flare towards the bottom. And yeah, I got it pretty good. This part here goes inside that rail. This is the actual like part that you cock the pin back, and where the bullets eject from. I'm pretty sure. So just gluing together 2 pieces of floor mat foam here to make a 20 millimeter foam. And then I'm using some 2 millimeter What the Foam. This is a harder, rigid foam. I like using this for like stiff type stuff. It really holds its shape, and it's more of a plastic foam than just a regular foam. And I'm kind of running out of this stuff, and last I checked, the stuff was out of stock, so I don't know if I'll ever get any more of this stuff. But I do like it, and I do recommend it. He makes this in, I think he makes it in 2 and 4 millimeter. Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. But yeah, just skin both sides of that, and yeah, popped it in place. You can see that the rack is a different color. That's because I remade it. I'd used the same techniques I showed you, but just was a little wonky, so I remade it and tried to glue it a little bit better. But there you can see how these pieces kind of fit together. For like the back stock piece, this is the part that actually like goes against your shoulder, and that kind of completes the back stock section and this top rail like main build. So then I move on to the handle, the actual pistol grip, and again using some floor mat foam, just gluing those together. Then I glue 3 of these pieces together and 3 of these pieces together. This is all part of the pistol grip and the ammo holder, and that's what this part is here. This is where I think this is like the actual ammo container. The clip goes on the bottom of this. So yeah, I'm using a 5 millimeter piece on the front and the back, and sandwiching 3 floor mat foam pieces together for the inside. This makes it just a bit thicker than the actual gun part, so it sticks out a little bit more. Then I go ahead and I cut the pistol grip out with just a sharp knife. And then all this stuff will get cleaned up with the Dremel at some point. So I kind of roughly cut out all these shapes. And that is how these pieces will get glued together, just like that. So then moving on to the front of the gun, this is kind of like the rack on the bottom. I think this is the grenade launcher part. So I cut these out of 2 millimeter foam, and yes, they did take me forever. I used a little copper pipe that has been sanded, and I used that to cut the holes, and then I just used my knife to cut the straight lines to make this very Death Star panels. This is like all I think of when I see these circular octagon shapes is the Death Star and the Empire from Star Wars. So yeah, so I cut those out of 2 millimeter foam, and I'm just gluing them on top of some 5 millimeter, the base shape here. Heat seal all of that foam, and I'm getting it hot at the same time so that I can curve it. So I spend most time heating up the back, because the back can take more heat, and even if you heat it up too much, it's the back, so it doesn't really matter. And then I'm just kind of rolling it one side and then the other, and now when this cools down, it will kind of hold that shape. So this is the actual grip, and I think this is the part that actually like loads the new grenade in place. So this is like the bottom grenade launcher grip. So I cut out this rectangle of 5mm foam. I used that strip of 10mm to make the nice bezel on the front. And now I can actually cut out the shape that it's supposed to be. I curve it a little bit just to make sure that it fits that shape. I'm just kind of double checking that it fits where I want it to fit. There's a little detail piece for the top rail. This is 2mm foam. Gets glued on and wrapped around to the other side. Now here is a spot that's kind of a little complicated. Obviously I cut this all out flat. Did the same thing with the copper pipe to get those holes. And yeah, then I'm just gluing this two stems together, kind of keeping that curved shape. And then these two flaps on the end, they fold down and glue to the edges. This is goes on the top of the barrel. I'm just kind of going through and making sure I have all the pieces ready, ready to go to get glued for assembly. This is the little light box here. Using some foam, 2mm to cut that out, and then using some scrap plastic from some packaging. I cut out the 95 on my vinyl cutter. Just cut out some just matte black vinyl, and now I'm just cutting off weeding out the numbers out of the middle, and then I just stick that onto this plastic with some transfer paper, and then when I pull the transfer paper off, you have it stuck to the plastic pretty good, and then from here you can trim the plastic part off the size that you want. Instead of, cutting out the plastic, trying to line up the vinyl, I decided to just stick the vinyl to the plastic and just cut the plastic after. That worked out very well. And then you can take your little foam box here. Just using the back of the ruler so I don't get glue on the bench, so it doesn't stick to the cutting mat on the bench. Yeah, and then make sure that goes the right way. I almost put that on wrong, so that would have been fun. Yeah, and then you just kind of line up those numbers, make sure they're square up in there. Then you can add these little rivets to the side here. These are some 2mm offcuts that I have in a little box. These are made with that copper pipe. Then I drill out this at an angle here, and I also drill a hole through where the clip is going to go. This is so I can feed this wire through. So I can add a little LED to the letters, or to the numbers. I keep calling them letters. My brain. Yeah, so now with the wire through, I can go ahead and glue this part together. Yeah, so here is the clip. This is the bottom clip. And I am using some rare earth magnets that I have. Using a Sharpie, marking the bottom of the earth magnets with Sharpie, and then I press this where I want it to go. And what that does is that leaves some of the Sharpie ink behind. So I know where to put the other magnets. Because I want to cut a hole for the magnets on the other side so the magnets go up into the foam and go flush, so there's not a gap between the foam. I wanted them to sit flush. And then you saw I just kind of soldered a red LED together pretty quickly. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. It's just a little Christmas light. I have tons of these. You've seen these before. I got these like big string of Christmas lights, and the battery pack got like all rusted, so I have all these LEDs. Yeah, and I just wired a little battery and a little switch in there, and that'll go in the bottom where the clip goes. I'll show you that in a minute. But I glue the handle, the pistol grip in place. There's the clip. You can see how it magnetizes in there. That is where the battery and switch will go. It just kind of stays hidden, and you can turn it on and put the clip back in after. I was very happy with that. I thought that was pretty clever, having a magnetized clip that comes on and off that you can turn the switch on and hide all your electronics. I was pretty, how they say, chuffed with myself on that. But yeah, so then I can go ahead and start gluing this front part together. I try to just glue this flush to the bottom part there, making sure that it like touches the bottom part of that like little handle piece there. And there's the little trigger. This is just some more 5mm foam, just super gluing that into place. Then I finally get around to officially gluing the stock in place on the back. I thought about maybe somehow trying to make that so that it's retractable, so that it comes out a little further like it should, but I did not do that. So originally here I just used some 5mm foam little chunks here to keep this symmetrical, keep the barrel part same thickness all the way down. What I didn't realize at the time is that there is stuff that's supposed to be glued up there. So I end up taking it all apart and gluing like an actual strip up there. But for the little ejector part here, I don't know if that's where you feed the grenade or not. I don't think so. But just use a little dowel up there. And the front of this barrel part gets this 10mm cap basically, and it gets glued in there flush. You can see I added a little piece of 5mm on the top. I think I cut that too short, or I wanted it to be a little bit more flush. And then this is a 10mm part. It's same size, but it's a little smaller, so that it fits right on the front there pretty good. And then, yeah, so I added this 10mm section on top to make that whole piece flush. And it also brings out that part away from that body a little bit more. So I cut those lines with my knife and heat sealed them to make them pop out. And that was pretty sweet. It gives you this nice grip texture, and it looks pretty good. Then I can go ahead and glue this part in. Just using some super glue here for this. Super glue is good for this kind of stuff because contact cement, it's like too grippy sometimes when you're trying to like finesse things into a little spot where they have to touch like so many surfaces at once. This little part goes on top here. It gets glued flat to the bottom and then to the side wall there. And then this little part here, this little triangle, gets glued on the front. And you can see everything's kind of starting to come together. It looked a little wonky with just the handle and that grip part. So here I'm using a stone bit. It's got a little circular part. I'm just going through and cutting circles. And then I'm using some of these basically foam rivets here. I'm just putting rivets all the way around on certain parts. Using my tweezers to hold these. It's a lot easier than using your hand. I also put some bigger ones on there in certain spots. And then this part here, the grip, I just kind of drew on where it needed to go. And then I just kind of sliced it off. And that cut doesn't have to be perfect, because what I'm doing is I'm taking some 2mm foam and some 1mm foam. I'm using the 1 as little detail lines, and just put some more of those little foam rivets. And then I stick that whole thing in place there. I think that's supposed to be kind of like the button you push to release the clip. Using some 1mm foam, I traced the handle. And just now cutting that out. And there's also this little detail part on the top here that I noticed that needs to be up there. So yeah, just glue those in place. Do the same thing on the handle that you did on that front grip. Just cut those lines in for detail. This was a new technique I tried on this build. I took a I forget what they're called, T16 head or whatever they are, like the star pattern. Heated it up in the heat gun and then pressed it in place on the foam, and it left the shape of the bit in the foam. It worked pretty good. It's easy to heat it up too much and then it kind of shrinks and warps the foam. But if you get it kind of like just right, it looks pretty good. So this is a little wood dowel that I wrap in some 2mm foam just to thicken the dowel up, but also have it be the same foam texture. You don't want to see the wood texture after it's painted, so that does that. I cut a hole out of the bottom with my drill just so it looks like an actual barrel. And that is how that got all primed. I taped off the letters, and I sprayed the whole thing with Plasti Dip. I put like 4 coats of Plasti Dip on there. And then I'm just using some of this like camo tan. I wanted to go with tan. I like the way it looks. I think it's more green, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. I like the tan. It's more military, but also I do think it is supposed to be more of a greenish tan color. So you can paint yours whichever you like. I went with tan. Now I'm just going through with some black acrylic paint, and I'm painting all the spots that are supposed to be black. I put like 2 coats on here of everything, and this is always how I do stuff. I hate like taping and painting and spraying and then pulling stuff off and the tape underneath pulls off, or it's seeped under the tape anyway, and it is just like, I'll just paint with a brush. It's so much faster for me. So then I'm using some Vallejo chrome. It's basically just a nice silver acrylic, and painting all the bits that are supposed to be silver. And I don't know where the footage went of me weathering this, but you've seen me weather stuff before. I literally just take brown and black paint, mix it together with a lot of water, and just brush it on everything, and take a little rag and just kind of dab the whole surface just to get some dark color and pigment on and kind of stain it. And that's basically all I did for the paint job. The paint job was pretty simple. 2 colors and some wash. Yeah, and it came out pretty good. I hope you guys enjoy it. I like it. I like it hanging up on the wall. It's very cool. And yeah, maybe next week we'll make something that you might need this gun for. So I hope to see you guys next week for the last space build video of May. Alright everybody, so that is it. Thank you for joining me on this build this week. This was a really fun build. It's a really cool, recognizable prop from the movie Alien. And it's pretty cool to have this up on the wall. I mean, it looks great. Anyway, you can put it up here, you know. Looks pretty sweet up on the wall. You could even put, like, I thought about putting this in like a big like shadow box, like on glass, and then say like in vinyl, put like break in case of an alien attack. So that'd be kind of cool. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. I really love the magnetizing clip with the switch for the light on the bottom. I think that's pretty great. It's a great way to hide electronics. And I'm gonna have to start trying to do that in more builds. So yes, so stay tuned. Next week I have another alien video coming for you guys, and I can't wait to see you then. So see you later.